Hi everyone, this is your instructor, Jeremy E. Baker. I am here to welcome you to your Sociology of Poverty course. In this first lecture, I am going to be just introducing the course itself. We're not going to be talking about too much content relating to the course. We're just here to explain how the course works, just like you do in your in-person classes. So first I'm going to talk a little bit about me, then we'll talk about the course, including looking at the syllabus and looking at Blackboard, and then we will be doing some work talking about the basics of sociology. So I teach for Ohio State. I also teach for Otterbein, both of those being in Central Ohio. And then I also teach for University of South Carolina Upstate, which is an online courses that I teach. USC is USC itself, their state school, and Upstate's one of their branch campuses. I teach these classes. So I teach Introduction to Sociology. That's probably the course I teach most often. Some of you may have taken me for Intro to Soc. Social Problems, Environmental Justice, Dimensions of Culture, Sociology of Family, Sociological Aspects of Deviance, and also Social Research Methods. Other things I do, I am a parent of 2 kids. My hobbies include gardening, Dungeons and Dragons. I do a fair amount of reading and also Pennsylvania Dutch folklore. That's another thing I'm really interested in. But let's talk about the course itself. So we're going to be looking at the syllabus and Carmen here in a second. I do apologize for any tech issues that come up with the screen shuffling. Unfortunately, the software I have is a little bit clunky for this. If you would, well, let me just change that slightly. Sorry. If you would, and if you need to pause this because this is a recording, you can totally do it. If you would log on to Carmen right now and get into the class, I will walk you through what I expect you to do with our time together. Here is Carmen. And this is unfortunate. I don't like it. So just kind of follow along with my words. It's not ideal. I'm looking at you have along your left-hand side the following tabs: Home, Announcement, Zoom, Grades, Files, and then you have a couple others. Home, that tab is where you will find most of the stuff for the course. Announcements is where you'll find my weekly announcements, and those are quite important. I want you to check that a minimum of twice a week. It's a good idea to check a minimum of once a week. Once every 2 days is probably your best bet. If we should happen to have a group meeting, it would happen in the Zoom tab, but we're not really doing that this semester. And then your grades tab keeps you up to date on graded material. It also gives you due dates, and that is reflected in the syllabus that I'll talk about in a moment. I'm going back up to the Home tab just to talk through that a little bit. At the top, you'll see there's some information about the course itself. It says that my office hours take place via Zoom on Mondays from 3 to 5 p.m. And then it gives my Zoom numbers. Please don't, there's another note. Please don't send me messages directly through Carmen. Please only send me messages via OSU email. That is actually a disability accommodation on my part. I do have diagnosed ADHD, and I simply cannot keep track of the message system within Carmen itself. So please send me stuff via email. And if I happen to drop the ball and not answer something, give me a week, please. Please ask again, though, if I drop the ball there. What else? Another note there at the top is that it is your responsibility to follow the reading schedule listed in the syllabus. Weekly quizzes will focus on those readings, and readings are not included below. So every week you will have a couple chapters of the book to read of our textbook. Sometimes it's 1, sometimes it's 2. I try to keep it down to down to 1. And then so just audio wise, to make this staring at this disembodied screen a little shorter, I'll just talk you through week 1 and week 2. So you see it says lecture 1.1 introductions, and at the moment it says recording here. When I'm done with this recording, I will put that there, so that'll be under your week 1 list. And then you have the slides for this lecture, so you don't have to take furious notes. You can use those slides however you see fit, and you can take notes as you see fit on the slides if you have that software. And then you have our syllabus, and then you have your week 1 discussion, which I will be expecting you to make your first post in by Wednesday of week 1, and then you will be expected to make 2 additional posts to fellow students by Sunday, 11:59 p.m. of week 1, the end of the week. And then quiz 1, course orientation. That is not a timed quiz. Most of our quizzes are timed, but that one isn't. And the main reason there is it's designed to get you oriented to the course. What else? That should be it. So going over now to the syllabus. Again, if you need to pause, feel free, but I am just going over to look at the syllabus for the class. At the top, you have all the numbers we need, being that this is Soc 3460. This is an online asynchronous course, meaning we don't meet at a specific time or place. You have my contact information, including my email, including my Zoom connection information for my office hours from 3 to 5 p.m. on Monday. If you're ever prompted for a password there, Sociology is the password, but I try to make sure the password's disabled for that purpose. My emergency email, if, for example, say, our computers get hacked at OSU, which tends to happen about every 3 years or so by a disgruntled IT student, use my Otterbein email if all that goes down, but please don't use my Otterbein email unless you have no other choice. Use my OSU email. Then you have the information for our required text. We have one book. It is not a textbook. It is a nonfiction account of poor people who have become permanent residents of their RVs, their campers, whatever you want to call them. And it's a really very interesting book about older Americans in rural settings who are poor. Admittedly, they're pretty overwhelmingly white, which isn't perfect in terms of sociology of poverty. There isn't as much discussion about race and ethnicity in that book, but our other course materials will talk about that stuff. The official course description is that we're going to be studying low-income people, especially concerning effects of poverty on them and the consequences of social and consequent social participation. This is a GE for diversity of social diversity in the US. If I'm correct, you are not required to take Soc 101 for this course, which means some of you, this may be your first ever sociology class, which is totally okay. If you have problems about how exactly sociology works, let me know. And when I'm done doing this mediumly awkward portion of the talk today, I'll talk about what sociology is. I have a general content warning there farther down. As sociologists, we're going to be talking about anything humans can do, right? That's basically what we talk about as sociologists. And as such, we talk about ugly things, right? We can talk about terrorism. We can talk about police brutality. We can talk about sexual assault, right? These are things that are open for sociologists to talk about. And I just want to kind of give you that warning. With that said, I am pretty vigilant in terms of content warnings. So at the beginning of my lecture, if I know something that can be troubling for some people, I try to put that on. the agenda, uh, the first page of the of the lecture itself. What else? Classroom rules and guidelines. Unfortunately, these are a little bit oriented to in-person. The in-person course, and I do apologize for that. Number 5, though, is very important, and this will mainly pertain to your online discussion boards. In this course, we will be frequently discussing controversial topics. You do not have to agree with everyone, and you are expected to express your opinions. However, you must also respect the opinions of others, and this is underlined. Intentionally homophobic, racist, sexist, ethnocentric, or otherwise discriminatory statements or behavior will not be tolerated. I just can't, right? It's not even a matter of personal philosophy, even though it matches my personal philosophy. In sociology, we can't be discriminatory against people, right? We can't, we have to work not to offend our classmates. And in doing that, we have to be kind when we have questions, right? So yes, obviously, if you're intentionally insulting somebody, that's not cool at all. But when you have questions about how other people live, just do it as kindly as possible, right? It's all a matter of don't be an asshole. That's what it comes down to. That's the whole thing, right? So that's super duper important. And in this class, that most applies to our discussion boards. Anything else on that note? I can't think of something immediately. If you see something or something occurs that violates that number 5 rule and guideline, please let me know. We'll try to fix it. We'll try to resolve it. Additionally, though, in this class, because we are talking about poverty, and poor people are some of the most discriminated against people in our society. Just be aware that a lot of the things you learned about poor people growing up were probably classist, right? They probably were reinforcing the stigma built up against poor people. So sometimes just try to check yourself before talking about these poor people's gnarly teeth or whatever, right? Nobody chooses to have bad teeth. People who have bad teeth were in bad circumstances, and in many cases, that's a direct result of financial inequality. Okay, moving on. Uh, Drugs, alcohol, mental health concerns. If you need help in that regard, you should contact the Office of Counseling and Wellness. Uh, Again, suicide prevention falls in there too. I want you all to be mentally healthy, as healthy as you can be, and to get help if you need it. What else? Sexual harassment and violence. Um, if you have concerns in that regard, and this also falls into the diversity bit, where you feel uncomfortable about something that's happened in the class, and again, this would happen mainly in the discussion boards, please let me know about it, and I can try to see what I can do. If there's something I've done that makes you uncomfortable, the person to talk about that is the Title IX coordinator, and there is contact information there. Now moving down to the students with ADA accommodations. If you are somebody with a registered disability, please get me that information as soon as you possibly can. I'm legally not allowed to help you with that stuff until you get me the paperwork. That's the important part, and I can help you out, and that's protected, right? Now, if you have a disability, if you have a circumstance that needs some kind of light accommodation, say like somebody in your family died and you have to go take care of that, please let me know that too, and I can help you out a little bit there. Life absolutely does happen. And that's that. But if you are someone with a registered accommodation, get me that as soon as possible, because it has to do with how long you have to take quizzes and exams, etc. I have to be able to program that ahead of time. So please, please, please let me know. Now let's talk about our course requirements. We have 12 quizzes in which the lowest quiz grade is dropped. So if you get a 0% on one of the quizzes, that'll go away. So you don't have to worry about that. We have 6 discussions worth 60 points. You're going to have 2 exams worth 100 points each. There is a typo there on the course breakdown. It says 2 exam study guides, 20 points. I have eliminated the exam study guide assignment, so just don't worry about it, I guess. And then farther down at the end of the syllabus, we have the schedule for the course. This is the official schedule. This is the thing that I do my best to keep it from changing. Sometimes it does wind up changing, but I warn you about that ahead of time. And that tells you when stuff happens. Most importantly for you, under the readings, etc. Category, that tells you when you should be reading what and when you should be taking the quiz on what, and that is super important. Let's see, where is our midterm? Will take place in week 9, and I also have a lecture attached to that one. You will have all week of week 9 to take the exam, but it must be turned in by Sunday at 11:59 p.m. And then what else? I won't expect any work the week of Thanksgiving / Indigenous Peoples Day. And then week 16 is our finals period, which is December 4th through December 14th. That's not 7 days, you'll note, it's 10 days. Your final exam will be due on Wednesday, December 13th, and that, like everything else in this class, will be online. If you have to leave early or something like that, you can take it anywhere, quite frankly. If you live in Montana, you can take that in Montana. That's fine with me. Just be sure it's in by Wednesday, December 13th. Yeah, so that's it for that kind of opening stuff that, is admittedly kind of boring. Now, let's talk a little bit about the basics of sociology. So sociology is a science, and as such, it uses the scientific method. This might not be something you know because Soc 101 is not required for this course. When we think of science, we often think of the physical sciences. So things like physics, chemistry, biology, astronomy, those are the things that people think, oh, there's a quote, real science, right? But social sciences are also sciences. This includes sociology, psychology, economics, anthropology. Those are things that are not the natural sciences, but we still use the scientific method. That's what separates it from things like history, journalism, art, literature. Those things are very valid ways of understanding the world, but the way that they do it is not science. Everything isn't a science. That's just the simple fact of the matter. That doesn't mean that there aren't very valid ways of understanding the world that aren't science. It's absolutely true, but everything isn't science. Science, what is science, is simply a specific way of gathering knowledge. It is not inherently better or more valuable. Science answers questions there are some questions that science can answer, some questions that science can't answer. How should you live your life? Not really a science question. What does it mean to be a good person? What should you believe politically or religiously? Where, in the biggest, most broad sense, does the universe come from? Those are not really questions that can be clearly answered by science. Now, if you've dedicated to your life to teaching social science, sociology, like I have, there are a lot of things that inform my big question answers, right, from the social sciences. But a lot of people get those answers for themselves, not including science whatsoever, And that is an entirely valid thing. One thing I really can't stand is when people discount other people's beliefs because they, quote, aren't thinking scientifically. That's not okay. There are questions that science can answer, however. How do we prevent the spread of COVID? That is absolutely something that we know scientifically. How old is the universe from this moment to the very beginning of the Big Bang? We can answer that clearly with science. What is the impact of poverty on American society? That can be answered through science, and that's something we're exploring through the whole course. Now, sometimes people get a little confused as to what is the difference between sociology and psychology. Many people don't get that. Psychology is the study of how the human brain processes the world. So it is about how this jelly in between our ears and the electrical impulses and chemical reactions that happen in there, how that creates our personal experience and how we believe ourselves to be, and to an extent how we interact with others. Sociology starts when one person interacts with another person, because sociology is the study of human social interaction. So sociology starts with two, and then it goes up to as high as all humans ever, right? So it goes from small to quite big indeed. Sociology is about the study of society. Psychology is about really the study of the individual and the study of the brain, is the easiest way to put it. So, and this is kind of my closer, as a sociology course, the concepts presented are based on scientific data. This is something a lot of people don't get about sociology. This is something, honestly, my own mother doesn't get about it, right? What I teach is not simply a collection of my opinions. And no sociologist worth anything. Is it simply a matter of their opinions? These are statements of scientific fact that can be backed up with scientific data. Some of these concepts can absolutely be debated. Others can't be debated, right? So in relation to this course, we could have a meaningful conversation about what we should do in our country or even in our city about what we should do about poverty. And that's open and valid for debate. You can have opinions there. What you can't debate is, are there poor people in Powell, Ohio? If you don't know local geography, Powell is a hyper-rich area to the north of the city. Yes, there absolutely are poor people in Powell. That is not a matter of debate. We can drive to their house and talk to them, right? That's the difference, right? It's social, physical reality, and that's what can be debated. That is not a matter of opinion, right? Because it's not. And I like to point this out too. Some opinions are wrong, right? Okay, that's a weird place to end a lecture. So if you have any questions for me, please send me an email or get in contact with me during my office hours, and I will love to answer those questions of yours in the best way I can. Okay, thanks so much.